Would you like to hear the story of a blind born who now can drive without glasses? Would you like to know how to overcome legal blindness? Would you like to discover an approach to most difficult vision problems and actually any vision problem? My name is Ainhoa de Federico. Let me introduce you to Meir Schneider. He was born blind to deaf parents from a congenital cataract, had 5 surgeries, and was declared legally blind. You had to learn to read and write in Braille. You started practicing natural vision improvement just before turning 17, and you got a driver's license at age 28, and you still have it today after being 70 years and more old. And in the process, after healing yourself, of course, you have trained thousands and thousands of people in many countries around the world. Welcome, Mary. It's such a pleasure to have you here, and such a pleasure to have your chapter in the Natural Vision Improvement anthology book that we've published recently. So someone like you, very well known, has achieved so much. What is the first thing that you would like to tell people listening to us?
Well, first of all, I want to tell everyone that you can see better, and that vision is something that can improve for many, many situations, from macular degeneration to cataracts to glaucoma, and from people who wear glasses. The second thing I want to say is that I really bless you and thank you, Ainhoa, for making natural vision improvement so much more known. The idea of the book, I think, was your idea. And one of the reasons that it's so great that you brought that idea to fruition is that you met so many instructors of natural vision improvement, and you felt that each one of them can contribute to the world and bring natural vision improvement to the world. And as a result, many thousands of people who have never heard about the possibility of seeing better, who are hypnotized by the medical profession pessimism that eyes cannot improve. Hypnotize is the right word. We need to do another hypnotic, maybe with AI, to teach people to not be hypnotized that they cannot see well. That's what stands in our way. It is so important that we'll have a critical mass of people who would see better. Anytime I teach a class, whether it is in Israel, it's interesting, when I went to Israel now, the first thing is we had siren when I went to the airport. Then the second thing, we had sirens in the middle of my classes. So as we went to the shelter, I kept teaching. The third thing, we had sirens in our apartment. We had to go to the shelter. And then the rocket stopped from Lebanon, at least for a while. And actually, they stopped permanently, I think. And I taught a class in the beach with 70 people looking at the beach. And it was very interesting time. A guy came to me, I didn't recognize him one bit, and he said, Meir, I met you 18 years ago. And he said, you know, I heard about you, I heard you in the radio, because in that time, I think I was in the media quite a bit. Now, I don't know why I'm not able to go to the media, but I was able to do it then. So if anyone knows how to get me to the media, please be in touch with me. My last workshop in Tel Aviv, after the rocket stopped, was in the beach. I went with flip-flops and a bathing suit, a nice shirt, but with flip-flops and a bathing suit, and taught people on the beach. It was fantastic. And then as I was teaching my classes, again, sirens. So I was teaching in the shelter. People didn't care. And then in our Airbnb, there were shelters. And I was in the 16th floor in the hotel. There was an apartment in the hotel. It was beautiful, but we also went to the shelter there. It's always 10 minutes, not a big deal. Either they detect the rocket or they don't detect the rocket, but either way, it only lasts 10 minutes. If they don't detect it, it blows up several buildings. If you do detect it, then they blow the rocket, okay? But anyway, it stopped. There was a ceasefire with Lebanon, with Hezbollah, and now we could invite people to go to the beach. I had 70 people on the beach, and I was teaching with my flip-flops and my bathing suit and a shirt, because I always loved the sea. I'm a sicko. I bathe in the sea in all seasons. I even used to bathe in the San Francisco Ocean, which is like 10 or 11 Celsius degrees, you know. Sometimes it's warm, it's 13 or 14, right? But anyway, that's what I do. But the Sea of Tel Aviv becomes cold like 20 degrees. Normally it's about 30 degrees, you know, in the summer. Anyway, so I was teaching on the beach, and one guy came to me and says, you know, Meir, 18 years ago, I met you, and there was a membrane in my eye, basically full of fluid, which is similar to macular pucker, and 4 ophthalmologists, including the surgeon and 3 second opinions, told me that if I'm not going to do vitrectomy, which is a surgery where you remove the vitreous, which is huge, then they put silicone instead. And by the way, that brings to cataract, retinal bleeding, who knows what it leads to. But if you're not going to do the vitreous, you're losing vision in that eye. I said to him, you don't have to do the surgery. And I taught him eye exercises. He did it 10 hours a day.
So you were telling me that you were teaching in Israel with the sirens for the bombings and going back and forth to the shelter. Everything stopped, so you could go to the beach, and then a man approaches you. So you were with 70 people.
Yeah, we had 70 people. 70 people was amazing. It was only announced like a week before. So within a week, we got 70 people. People came from all over the country. Now, it's a small country, but 4.5 hours is nothing in Mexico, nothing in the United States. In Israel, it's a huge drive. You know, when a space is small, wow, it looks very far. But people came from the south and from the north, from everywhere, to hear what I had to say. And this wonderful man came to me and said to me, I was diagnosed with a membrane in my eye as a result of fluid that accumulated in my retina. I was offered a major surgery. It's called vitrectomy, where they remove the whole vitreous, which is terrible. And that can lead, by the way, to cataracts, glaucoma, and retinal scarring and bleeding. But they felt it's the only way to save this eye. So they were about to do the surgery because not only his ophthalmologist thought it's necessary, he went to 3 second opinions, 3 different ophthalmologists, and they all said, we have to do the surgery. I was on the radio there. I was then in the media, big time, and especially in Israel. But I was in the media everywhere. I want to return to the media, and I need to have someone who can help me because I haven't been in the media for a long time. And he said, I'm happy I heard you on the radio. And he said to me, Meir, you told me you don't need the surgery. So I gave him exercises, and he did them for 10 hours a day, every day. 10 hours a day, every day. He went to the ophthalmologist a month later and already was wearing clothes of a patient, yellow clothes in Israel, or orange clothes. The doctor measured his eye and said, wow, there is no longer fluid there. So the man said, can you please release me? Said, yes, but come back in a month. He came back in a month. There was no trace of anything, not swelling, not fluid, not macular pucker. And he said, since then, I'm doing my exercises. I did not recognize him at all. But I was so happy to hear it. So were the 70 people who were there. And so then we started with that spirit to do eye exercises. Listen to this. 68 out of the 70 people said they saw better as a result of what we did. 68 out of 70. Can you imagine such majority? I must say, part of it is the sea. We were looking at a beautiful Mediterranean Sea, the waves, I always love to swim around the wave breakers, the horizons. And when you look far away, the eyes always see better. And the sun was amazing, was a great angle. And when we do sunning, the eyes see better. And it was easier to look at letters, was easier to do everything. So with that kind of spirit, I want to start to talk about the chapter in the book. And I want to talk about legal blindness. Now, what is legal blindness? That's very important for us to understand. You know, Ainhoa, when I was almost blind, I used to have between 1% and 2% vision. I have about 70% vision. So when I was almost blind, I used to think that I see better than people who are completely blind, right? But there was I never met him again, but I really loved him, you know? And I went with him to the central bus station. He could tell me where the bus is. He could tell me where the streets are. And in spite of his blindness, he had such a good navigation sense. All I had to tell him where he is, and then he would know where I am comparing to anything else. I could not believe it. He saw better than people who are seeing while not seeing anything. There's the other situation. A person loses 25% of his vision, really loses it, loses parts of his or her visual field, and cannot be oriented. Cannot be oriented. They cannot see right or left. They cannot not know anything. Anything comes their way. I'm dealing now with a person who lost 85% of his field, still has very good vision from distance, some poor vision from near. He lost it to glaucoma. And one of the things I taught him is what kids always do when they're small, and this is to move the head from side to side. Because when you move the head from side to side, more light comes to your eye, and you're much more oriented. But you have to learn to do it slow. And then you know what's in the room. Okay? So that was a very interesting thing. So legal blindness is not that you really are blind, is that you cannot be oriented with your vision. And here is very important for people to know that we have many, many means to help people to see better. So you probably were interviewing quite a few people. We talked about palming. Everybody talks about palming. I love palming.
Yes.
I have two addictions in life, or two addictions I'm willing to talk about. Okay. One is I am a palmaholic. There is no day where I don't palm for at least an hour. And I do it by listening to stories, listening to music, and then focusing on my breath and doing it after exercises. So that's one. The other one is I'm also unfortunately a chocoholic, and you see the results. Okay. So I apologize for that. I'm not a role model on that one. But what I want to say is we know about palming, but the point is we have to learn that whatever we see, we should see with no effort. It's okay to see fuzzy. It's not okay to strain to see. That is something that is so hard to teach people, especially people who depended on their vision all their life, you know, and learned to control their life by seeing things. Unlike me, because I used to read Braille in the beginning of my life, you know. When I started to drive, many people asked me, how dare you drive? I said, what's the difference? I don't see, they don't look, we're all the same.
That's so funny.
And,
okay, but you haven't killed anybody, right, while you've been at the wheel?
I don't have tickets,
no.
Except once or twice parking tickets. No tickets, no accident, nothing. Isn't it nice? But I'm very careful. you won't see me drive often at night. I'm not supposed to drive at night, as far as I'm concerned. But I have the license, which is unrestricted, and I am restricting myself to the extent that I need to be restricted. Life of people matters to me. My life also matters to me. So I'm doing my best to drive carefully. But, I didn't drive cross country, but I drove to Sacramento many times. That's 90 miles each way. I drove to Grass Valley, which is more like 150 miles each way. I drove to Fresno, which is like, 250 miles each way, or 225. That's as far as I go. You won't see me going to LA. You won't see me cross country. And you see me mainly doing driving in the street, because my vision is between 60 to 70%. It's not like perfect vision, but it's fantastic. Take a look. I want to show you something. This is normal lens. It's the lens of my ex-wife. I don't know if she's in the book. Her name is Meir Schneider. Okay. And this is...
Yes, she is.
She is, right. And this is Meir's lens, and this is mine. You see this? It looks like somebody stepped on my lens and broke it into pieces. And my pupil couldn't widen. She got just atropine. I got 3 times as much as she got, and my other eye couldn't even widen. That's the strong eye that I have. And my vision in the past used to be such that eye chart. My vision in the past was such that I would see this 5 from this distance. See this? Today it's not normal. Today I can see this line from 20 feet. Okay? So, you see this line from 20 feet. So your vision is way better than mine. But seeing this from 20 feet versus seeing this from 2 feet is a big difference. And that's the accomplishment I had. And whenever I have time, whenever I can walk in the park is good. So let's return to the principles. The first one is don't strain to see. Have a soft-looking eye. Absorb the world. What a wonderful order. It is like Zen practice of vision. It's like meditation of vision. Just let the world come to you. It's easier for me to say it, but truth of the matter is that the most strenuous eyes are the eyes of the legal blind person. Again, the person who strains more to see is a person that is legally blind. You'll ask why? Anyway, he cannot see well, right? But the answer to that is that it takes much more effort to see when you're legally blind, and the world is not forgiving. The world demands that you'll see things they show you. That I've seen in many situations. And we have to fight that. And we have to allow the world to allow us to see what we can see in all situations. I tell to all legal blind people, sit with the light in your back so you can see what's in front of you. When I talk to you before the interview, I basically turn the lights off to have a relaxed atmosphere. Now I put the lights on so people can see what I demonstrate. But the point is, don't strain. We do sunning when we face the sun, but we don't look at anything which the sun is in front of it. We look from the shade at the distance, not where the sun is, but where the sun isn't. And then we see it better. If the sun shines on what we're seeing, we see better. So again, my recommendation to anyone whose eyes are not perfect and whose eyes don't see well, sit with the light in your back. Okay? Very, very important. And also have a lot of light. I remember that I used to play chess with my son, and he always won until I put 5 different light sources in my living room, and then we were 50-50. Sometimes I won, sometimes he won, because I could see what we're playing, right? So it's so important that vision will be clear and vision will be easy. And if it's not clear, it should at least remain easy. So again, as I said, deep relaxation of the eyes is important. Adaptation to different light, magnitude, and frequencies. I'll never forget, the biggest class I ever had, Ainhoa, was in Singapore, out of all places. There was a very nice group of people who do Buddhism and a special diet who met me. Their name is Lapis. And they walked with me. I had 150 students. So I never had a class that size, not before, not after, okay? And we were walking in the forest there, where it was dark. Somebody was trying to do a flashlight. I said, no flashlights here. We're in the dark. And first, people could see much of nothing. The trees created shade. Everything was dark. But they all trusted me because they were already a few days with me. So we worked in the dark. We walked in the dark. And then, slowly but surely, people saw better and better and better. Next day, their vision on the chart was amazing because the periphery expanded like crazy. So adaptation to darkness is important. One of the tools we have is we play with a glowing ball in the dark. Have you heard about that, Ainhoa? Glowing ball in the dark. So, for example, we have glowing balls in the dark. Those are balls. Yeah, good. Look at it. Those are balls that I will put them under light. I have lamps here, so I put it under the light. Now let's turn all the lights off, all of them. Okay. And they glow in the dark. You see this? We charge them for a while under the lights, and then we play in a very dark room. It's funny. We have a handicap room, which is very dark. And so I said, this is the bathroom exercise. We throw balls to each other. The main thing I'm asking from people is actually to see if with the light of the ball, they can see themselves in the mirror. All right. Mm-hmm. So that is fantastic to adjust to the dark of the night. Throughout 2 million years, people adjusted to the dark. There was a dawn, there was a sunrise, there was full sun, then there was sunset, then there was twilight, and then there was slight darkness and then great darkness. And our retinas have adjusted to all of that. The dawn helped us wake up our macula. There were no sunglasses in the past. And people adapted to the strong light of the sun when the light was there. Then slowly, the light would turn off in nature, and slowly they adapted to the night, because it takes 40 minutes to wake up all the roads to see. That's why my walk in the park is normally 50 minutes. So we'll have 10 minutes of seeing. But I'm doing more with the walk in the park. For example, I get people to put this between their eyes and wave their hands to the side. And then I get people to put this between their eyes and adapt to the dark of the night. Then I get people to put this between their eyes and then this between their eyes, and then palm with the paper on. So we have a very nice situation of a night walk, and the periphery opens more and more. I get my people to see perfectly within 20 minutes instead of 40 minutes. But we wake up cells that we never wake up before. I would say at least 40 million cells that hardly ever work. We work at night, and it's a fantastic thing. So that's one side. The other side is to adjust to the strong light of the sun. I mean, the medical profession makes such an effective propaganda against the sun. They make a propaganda against the sun related to the skin. And they learn that for every one person who gets cancer of the skin for not being in the sun, for being in the sun, you have 7,000 people who get soft bones because the calcium goes away for not being in the sun. And then some people, because they're too much indoors, get cancer anyway. So it's not like sun cannot be harmful to the skin. It could be, and we have to protect the skin at times. But escaping the sun is not an option. That's what gives us more energy than anything else. So in my case, I used to have very dark glasses because the sun bothered me. And that meant I hardly could see anything at night. When I removed my glasses, I remember one kid told me, "You're so ugly, you're like a monkey," because my eyes would move involuntarily because one of my conditions was nystagmus. And he said, "I want to punch you, you look so ugly." Yeah. And some other people thought that I looked like a drug addict because of the movement of my eyes. Well, adaptation to that sun have helped me see letters. Without that, I could have never seen letter, no matter what the magnification would have been. So the constriction of my basically destroyed pupil, the activity that I put in my eyes have helped me to look, and my diligent work. I've worked hours and hours every day. I'm returning to work right now, thinking that next year I may have to earn my driver's license again at the age of 72, you know. But I'm driving from the age of 28. It was like a Nobel Prize, from a time that people said I should have had a cane and a dog, and my parents and grandparents were irresponsible. I had 19 accidents just crossing the street, and I'm happy to be alive, okay, from that time. Sometimes the car would stop in the middle of the crosswalk, and I would just hit the car because I wouldn't see the car in front of me. Yeah, I wouldn't see when light is green or red, things of that nature. But I behaved as if everything is normal, right? I used to bicycle, and I used to fall into ditches, fall downstairs, hit trees, and hit people with the bicycle I was driving. I mean, people really got a heart attack thinking about my behavior. But I learned with time how to see. That was a big thing. So anyway, the adaptation to the sun have helped me see words. And then the next thing that happened to me is I had to learn to look at details, because I started by reading Braille and I saw something. So I was trying to see those dots, and the teacher says it will only confuse you. Don't look at the dots, just feel them, because you can't see much anyway. So just think about that order. And I need to learn shifting. It's one of the best things that happened. Well, I learned when I look at Alan's shirt right now. Alan, you can stand up so we can see you. And there's all those squares. I like to look from one to the other, from area to area. And the whole idea of shifting, and we have several charts of shifting here, is to look, and the other one too, is to look from point to point, is to look from line to line, from area to area, which I think is a very, very important thing. So you didn't bring the other shifter.
It's right here.
Okay, good. So this is also a good one, you know, to see the spaces between them. But then the other thing to do is to actually block the strong eye and with the weak eye to look from area to area and teach the brain to look with both. We have many other exercises we're doing with disability. For example, the Melissa, okay? That's an interesting exercise that everybody knows. And that one, we put the masking tape. I need a ball, please. Okay. I take a ball and I throw it from hand to hand. Inside the box, there are many balls. It takes a blind person to see. Okay. So we move the balls like this from hand to hand, and we clap. But then we do the Melisenia for people who have only vision in one eye. Okay. Thank you. Can you put a patch over me?
Sure.
and I'll need the red and green glasses and the board. Now, those are some out of the many exercises that we're doing to help people to improve the vision. So what I want to say is that in the book, I didn't have the capacity because there were so many authors in the book to describe enough or many of my cases. So I chose the best one. And the best one these days, I always, for me, it's like, who am I working with today? Was a beautiful girl by the name of Marlis. I must say that whom I'm really grateful for is my own daughter, because my daughter and my son were born with cataracts. And I spent hours working with their eyes, especially with my daughter's eyes. And their vision is better than anyone who was ever born with cataracts. They see 100% vision. My daughter is the second time that she was able to pass the Department of Motor Vehicle test. But there's a difference between her and me. She can regularly pass the test. I need to get a letter from optometrist to say that in spite of the fact that I cannot easily pass the test, that I still am able to drive. And thank God the laws of California allow me to do it. And thank God I'm very careful in my driving, and yet I use my car quite a bit. So what I want to say is that the case of Marlis was this. My two kids were born with cataracts. We learned in the hard way that we must do the cataract surgery at the age of 2 weeks. And you can understand, Ainhoa, seeing how broken my lens is, how damaged my pupil is, that me and my ex-wife really did not want to do the surgery. But we had no choice. We looked at the research, and sometimes you do what you don't want to do. And we found that if you don't do the surgery in a specific time, you become blind for life. So what happened with Marlis, she was born actually to parents who believe in holistic health. And they were in a very nice village or town in Germany called Bremen, not far from Munich. Well, if you call 2 hours drive not far, whichever way you want to say. They were born in Bremen. And there are many holistic people there, many holistic doctors there, and nobody noticed that she was born with cataracts. And only on the 11th week, now, you need to do the surgery at the age of 2 weeks. The last moment is before 8 weeks. Only in the 11th weeks, they realized that she had nystagmus, an involuntary movement of the eye, and therefore they looked and found that she has cataracts. They immediately did the surgeries and removed her cataract, but by then the brain forgot what is it to see. The brain was busy doing other things, listening, digesting, everything else. So at the age of 2.5, the mother brought me her daughter. She came to a workshop I was teaching in a small village called Kirchzachen, which is not far from Freiburg, Germany, which is very nice. There was very, very good environment for teaching. But she came specifically with her daughter. And she was 2.5 and didn't look at anything. Now, that's where legal blindness is, not looking. And her vision could have been measured somewhere between 2 and 5% in that time. It was poor vision because the brain did not pay attention to vision. Let me regress a little bit and tell you about the case that is written in Oliver Sacks about a man who was blind all his life, and then doctors discovered that he had cataract. So at the age of 40, they removed his lenses, and he saw, and he was bothered by seeing. He didn't like seeing. He didn't develop with seeing. To a milder extent, we're talking about mildness. Seeing was not something on her mind. Listening, talking, until today, when I do with her body work, when we do palming, even when we do sunning, she listens to stories because seeing wasn't it for her. Listening, yes. Very, very developed girl, one of the best students in her classes, I can tell you that right now. So now she's already 10 and a half. And her reading capacity was next to 0, and eventually 20%, increased to 65% reading capacity. And, you know, like many of my clients, she started by seeing so much worse than me, and now she's seeing so much better than me, okay? We were able to get to the place where she would see signs. So the story is that a mother came to me anywhere I was. She came to California, to San Francisco 2 times. She came to Canada 2 times to see me at the house of my partner, Jean. And once it was snowy and once it was nice and sunny, I think. She came everywhere and anywhere. She came to Nimes, France, when there was a conference of natural vision improvement. She came to Paris twice and worked with me. And she came to Tel Aviv. Now she doesn't want to go to Tel Aviv because so many people don't want to go to a country ravaged with war, except some people like myself who are very much Israelis. But she will come again this summer here. Basically, the mother doesn't want to see me less than twice a year. The girl doesn't like me that much because I always give her homework. But the mother loves to work with me. We improved to 65% reading capacity, and we improved to 55% vision capacity. And the best was, I decided if this woman comes to me again, I have to go to her home. And I found that going to people's home, especially when they lost a lot of vision, is so important because then you teach them to work and to look at things in their home. I've done it in Paris to one of my good clients whose bleeding stopped in a retina, who came here for 40 double sessions with me. I went to her apartment, which was a huge apartment, looking at the Eiffel Tower. She even accepted my jokes about the Eiffel Tower. I won't repeat them here. And I've shown her how to look at her plants, at her flowers, in her bathroom. Everywhere there is, I'm with those clients and I'm showing them what to look and what to see, which is, I think, is very important to pay attention to what you see. I'm returning to the client I described first with major glaucoma, lost all vision in his right eye, but most of the left vision is left eye, just near his nose. He sees something. I taught him to move his head from side to side. And I'm teaching him, and I think the climax will be to go to his home. So now I'm returning to Marlis. I went to her home, and we looked out of the mountains. And by the way, one thing I heard from her mother is that the brother, who was then 5 years of age, was near his sister doing all these exercises. Sometimes he did them, sometimes he didn't. And in the kindergarten, they said that there wasn't anyone who ever saw what he saw. The mother sees 120% of 2020. She sees the 2010 line. He could see houses way farther than she could see and way farther than John could see in that place. So it was very, very interesting that the kid who had normal vision, his vision became so strong. You could imagine it's eagle eyes, as a result of being with his sister. Now, for his sister, is the first time that she could read the house the house number. And it was like a few years ago. So she was 7 or 8, I think 7. And then we walked near the neighbor house and she said, I did not know the neighbor has a number. So all of a sudden she started to see her environment. And we worked on her environment. And the reason why I felt that she stopped being legally blind is that they brought new flowers to the house. And the girl sat down and looked at the different petals, counted them, because she learned from me to count things in order to see better. It reminded me of my own daughter, that I got her to count with a weaker eye, which is a right eye, petals. And she was able to count 200 petals in less than 1 minute. She forgotten it. Wow. I remembered her until I told her that. Said, oh, but Daddy, I couldn't follow my count. I said, well, that's the whole point. So the macula looks from area to area. So the girl started to count. And right now, I'm theoretically telling her, do you see this sign? Because I cannot see what she sees, basically. Mm-hmm. And without glasses, I still see way better than she does. But with glasses, she sees several lines below me. She sees better. The optometrist sees it. Now, one of the important things was to use the weaker eye. Just like in the case of this wonderful guy I'm working with, who is lost so much of his vision, and I'm getting a lamp to blink in the dark to wake up the eye that is asleep. That comes to create a sense of balance. You try to blink to create a sense of balance. So let me talk about him for a second, and then return to her. Can you turn the light on? And we're going to, that light, and we're going to turn the other lights off, so everybody will see that. This is just one lamp. I'm not selling this lamp. There's no, it's nothing except, if we look at it.
It's you while you.
Yeah, I'm turning all the lights
on the light, and you continue with the explanation.
Okay, turn the light on so I can see where to put it on.
Let me recap quickly. So we are talking about the 10 principles of natural vision improvement according to Meir Schneider's. Number 1, never strain to see anything. Number 2, deep relaxation of the eyes. Number 3, adapting to different light frequencies and amplitude. Number 4, looking at fine details with no effort. And these principles, he's telling us about how he has applied them successfully with himself, his children, and many clients, even that were legally blind.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, and I can see the flashing light too.
You see, this you do in areas in the dark where a person has what's called scotoma, doesn't see. So you cover with a patch the areas that see, you cover with papers areas in the eyes that can see. So for example, the case of the person I told you, I patch his strong eye, and I do it on the weak eye. But then in the strong eye, he also is blind in many areas. So I cover the area that sees and have this light, and we have also a small light that we do. Now you can turn all the lights on. Now, I have this light blinking in different areas of. It's very interesting. There was one guy that lost a lot of vision. He was a teenager. He lost a lot of vision. It was a big tragedy in the family. He lost a lot of vision in Brazil. And I took light that blinked and went up and down. The ophthalmologist thought he'd be blind forever, but he was looking at that light, and then he got normal vision. The ophthalmologist cried. He couldn't believe that that is a possibility. The possibilities are huge. Now, returning to Marlies, she had nystagmus in both eyes, but mainly in the weak right eye. So basically, this is red light. I'm sure that you cannot see it on the screen because you cannot see the red light. This is a red circle, and I have red and green glasses. And the idea is to move the light around. Anytime she tried to do it, her nystagmus was unbelievable because you divided between the two eyes and you demanded from the right eye to be active. And it was so interesting when I got her to tap tap. So she did physical work and sound with the light. The nystagmus slowed down. And I think the slowdown in nystagmus is she would take the head out of her mother and put it on the grandfather. And so she was active when we blocked her left eye, and she was active with the right. And I told the mother not to always look at the nystagmus, which is really unfortunate to have nystagmus when the eyes move involuntarily, but to make sure that the weak right eye is also working. Now, this is something that I understood from childhood, not only for the eyes. I remember working with polio patients, and what physiotherapy always did is working with the strong limb. You can understand why. They wanted them to drive, they wanted to cut vegetables. I always worked with the paralyzed limb. Sometimes my success was 2%, sometimes 65%. 10 years later, almost everyone with polio got post-polio syndrome. More polio damage, damage of the strokes, heart attacks, and others. Mine, it happened too, but about 30 years later. So what I want to say is that I've learned that the art of balance is here and now and has to be here. And so we cannot always equalize what you see, but we can equalize the use at times, not always, because every case is different. And when we equalize the use, the whole mechanism changes. And so the fact is that Marley stopped being legally blind, is curious about the visual world. It took us 6 years to get there. And people say it's a long time, but try to feed the brain what essentially the brain fed itself opposite. The brain fed itself, don't look. He ended up looking and seeing. I can tell you that many changes can happen with infants. The best one that I heard of from one of my practitioners, her name is Sonia Carusini in Brazil, that she was working in a clinic and ophthalmologist sent a mother to her and she cried because her girl was born without an iris. That means there was no pupil either. And she felt that the girl can respond to some light. So she taught the mother to pay attention. The mother was crying, but both of them were good Catholics and they loved each other and the soul met together. And so she said, try it. And so they did sunning, they did light work. In 4 months, from the age of 4 months to the age of 8 months, there was a development. And the girl developed an iris in both eyes. And the doctors didn't understand why. Now, years later, her vision is normal. Things can happen. Of course, you can do with infants things that you cannot do with adults. For example, there was one baby that was born because of toxoplasmosis, which can happen without one macula. So the doctor said, well, he'll see just with the left macula. I said, no. You do light therapy. 20 days later, the doctor said, I know what, he has a macula, but he has just a scar there. We did more work of him him being stimulated, and they said it was a mistaken diagnosis because it's not in the head that with exercises you can sense change structure in kids. Now, in my case, you cannot change my structure because I started to work on myself when I was almost 17. But you can change the function. And the bits and pieces of lenses that I have can work with the kind of work that we're doing. And that is so important. So what's important for me in that chapter is to give the message that giving up is a sin. That what we need to do is to accept that changes happens. Now look at Marley's mother. She takes her everywhere in the world to see me. She had to deal with a rebellious child who didn't want to do the exercises. With my own daughter, I would tell her, let's go to the beach to look at the waves, to do exercises. I don't want to go to the beach. So I said, do you want to be on my shoulders? She said, yes. So I put her on my shoulders and we walked to the beach. That's how it worked. My daughter was very cooperative. And we've done a lot of exercise, like having rolling balls to each other to allow the eyes to start an exercise. Don't lose faith Don't lose hope. The most important thing is if you have faith, if you have hope, if you're willing to do the work, your life will always change to the better. And that's the purpose of my chapter in this wonderful book.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think this is a very important core message. Keep the faith, keep the hope, do the work, persevere. I mean, if people are willing to invest hours and hours and years in learning how to play chess, how to play the piano, how to dance ballet, they can, of course, invest a couple months or years or weeks to learn how to use these beautiful wonders that are the eyes that we have and transform our lives thanks to it. And just to set the record straight, so the book was edited by myself together with Orit Kruglansky and Nathan Oxenfeld. And indeed, there's 43 authors from 16 countries sharing this extraordinary vision that now we have heard from the specific and beautiful angle of Meir Schneider. And that is the idea that we can improve our eyesight, we can see better, and it's actually your choice and your determination. If you have the right information and you persevere, you can certainly do it. Thank you, Meir, for your perseverance also and patience today.
Oh, absolutely. And I want to thank you, Ainhoa, for bringing this work to so many people in the world. You're very professional, you're very nice, and you bring the message, and the message should be clear to everyone. Vision can get better.